All right. Good evening, everybody. Joining us today. Hope you're all doing great. So, if you're able to see my slide or you can hear me very clearly, can find a reaction from anybody or a confirmation that my screen is visible. Yeah, just page thumbs up, which means both my screen and I all set and good. Yeah, I can see a number of us are joining in. Very good number. And we shall be starting shortly as we wait for others to join. Take some few minutes to wait for everybody to be in the call. Yeah, before we also get started, we can use the chat whenever we are communicating. It's good for us to be orderly, whereby when you have a question, you can raise your hand and the speaker will always get to you. Okay, let's give it 2 minutes. We'll be starting at 7:05. Okay, it's now time 7:05. Thank you everybody for joining in for today's meeting. First of all, I would wish to share with you the code of conduct that we always share when the meeting starts. First, treat everybody with respect, kindness, and empathy. Use welcoming and inclusive language while communicating. Be thoughtful of how you communicate in person on online. Don't be destructive, gracefully accept constructive criticism, and then listen with purpose, create space for others to communicate, and reach out to the organizers if you have anything. So that's our code of conduct as the Kenya Data Platform User Group. So thanks so much. Well, and today we are going to cover the introduction to Azure services. And this is our third session since we began, and it has been a great one. Right, so let me introduce myself. My name is Brian Kimboy. I'm the co-organizer in the Kenya Data Platform User Group, and I'm a Gold Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador and a community leader. I love making impact in my community. So let me welcome Tiffany. who will also be a speaker in this event, to introduce herself.
Hello everyone. My name is Moniki Tiffany Nyawera. I'm the assistant organizer in Kenya Data Platform User Group. I'm also a Better Microsoft Lab student ambassador. I'm very enthusiastic about being active in the community. Someone has their mic unmuted. Kindly mute your mic to avoid distracting the others. And I'm also a community leader in my school where we have the Computer Society of Kirinyaga. So after this meeting, maybe we can connect on LinkedIn and get to know each other more. So back to you, Kemboy.
All right, thank you so much, Tiffany. And today we'll be learning something great. We've had a lot to share from the introduction to Azure Cloud Computing, and we are going on very well. So we are touching on most of the fundamentals and concepts of Azure Cloud so that you can be able to build the foundation before we get into learning the databases in depth and more other services available for us. Yeah, today let's also speak more on Azure and then speak on the services or the services that are offered by the cloud itself. So it's a leading cloud computing provider. So it has over 200 products and services. So we'll be able to show you all these services today on the Azure portal where they are located. And it's trusted by 95% of Fortune 500 companies. So different companies are using this cloud platform for their businesses. So business use it to build, manage, and also deploy their applications. And talking about cloud computing, it is the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet. So a cloud is where you can be able to have the compute, the storage, databases, networking, and the softwares. So when you talk more about, uh, let's begin with networking. So it's how you can be able to connect and deliver like your applications or business over the internet. So you have other services inside it like Azure Virtual Networks. So it allows you to securely connect to Azure resources and to so that you can be able to have communication on premises and also to the data centers. So we have the Azure firewalls. We have also the Azure DDoS protections. So it protects your application from distributions of denial of service attacks. So there's so much. When we talk about this softwares, we're talking about the services offered like the Azure AI services, the Azure Cosmos DB, Azure databases, Azure functions, some of the things that we shall be talking about in these calls, whereby we'll be learning several things and also including these services now individually. So talking of databases, Azure provides you access to relational and non-relational databases, like for instance, the SQL databases, the database for Postgres, databases for MySQL, and also the NoSQL databases, which will be more specific, like the Azure Cosmos DB, and in-memory databases like caching memories on for Redis. So it's quite a lot. So when we'll be talking about storage, we'll look more into object storages like the Azure Blob Storage. So it will be one of the demos that we shall be having today, the file storage and the disk storages, whereby you can provision some SSDs or HDDs on Azure portal. Yeah. When we talk about compute, I will be talking more about Azure virtual machines, serverless computing, containers, app services. Yeah, there are quite a lot of services that Azure gives us, and we won't explore everything, but we shall be able to cover some because as we cover some of them, it becomes easy also to learn other services and consume them. So remember, it's all about knowing which service you need for your business. So yeah, a refresher is that when you're working on premises, you have your servers located in the premise or the organization. Like for instance, if a school has its own servers located, they can have a building whereby they can hold their servers so that it can hold data that can be used over the network or the organization. But now moving to the cloud, we'll be speaking something known as the SLA, the service level agreements. So what do we mean when we say the SLA? So SLAs, they are agreements that whenever you want to provision some resources on Azure portal, Azure will always give you the guarantee that, for instance, a service like a virtual machine, you're always told that it is 99.9% available. So a service might not be 100% available because these are services that are transmitted over the internet. So sometimes there can be some latency issues or unavailability of that service. So once the provider has given you that assurance that it's going to be 99.9, what if sometimes you don't get that availability? What happens? Because these are lost to the customer. So the customer will be able to write a complaint back to the organizers or back to the cloud, and then just write them to them that you are not able to get the services of that percentage that they promised. So another thing that you'll always find, so that's all about high availability. When you have these service level agreements, it assures you high availability of that service. But when we talk about scalability, so it's another thing that's available for you on Azure portal or Azure cloud computing, whereby you can be able to handling increasing and also decreasing the demands. So you can be able to add more CPUs to a service. Let's say, for instance, you have a database that has been deployed over there. You can be able to increase its CPU when the demand is more required of it. But when the demand is not that much, then you can still remove some CPUs because remember, you pay as you go. You pay for those services that you have. Yeah, we can talk about the benefits of cloud computing. So benefits of cloud computing, like reliability. So with those SLA, the service level agreements, so it assures you that your services will always be available. And this is possible because we have something known as the Azure, like Azure zones, whereby each and every data center has 4 zones, whereby your product or your deployment will be distributed almost 4 times in a data center, so that when there's a problem somewhere, the other zones will take care of that. But what if the entire data center is not functioning? Let me have my pen over here. So for instance, this is I think you can see the pointer that I have. So this is, let me get the letter pen here. So in case this data center, for instance, over here, or this data center goes over, this region goes off, and your application was distributed to different other data centers. So this is where not reliability comes in. Azure is going to manage that for you. And it's always good for you to have something known as redundancy, whereby it's not only locally available in one data center, but you can have it in different data centers. You also have the capability of predictability, whereby you can be able to predict the cost of the services that you've deployed. Remember, you're paying for these services and you don't want to go for a loss. So for instance, you can be able to predict that in 1 month, I'm going to pay a certain amount. So we have things like pricing calculators and auto scaling. So very much available for you to use. Yeah, some use cases of these services that you can be able to host some web. You can use it for web hosting, data analytics, game development, and machine learning. Yeah, I welcome Tiffany to take us through this other part.
Let me switch. Uh,
So you need to share your screen once again on your side, right?
yeah, you can stop presenting on your side.
Okay, sure.
Is it visible from your side, Kemboy?
Yes, your screen is visible on my end.
All right. So we're going to have a recap of how Azure works. My name is Tiffany. I'll be speaking about like introducing you to how you had to Azure core components. You had Kemboy mention redundancy and all that. So before that, we can have a recap of how Azure works. So there is your Azure account, and then there's the subscription that you are under, and then under your subscription you can have several resource groups, and then in those resource groups you can have resources. So the physical infrastructure of how Azure works is Azure has data centers, and they are the same as, you can call them facilities with resources, and they have power. They have dedicated power, cooling, networking, infrastructure, and all that. So these data centers are distributed all around the world, but you can't access them directly. So they are grouped into
Tiffany,
regions. Uh-huh.
okay, excuse me, are you sharing your slides from OneDrive?
Yeah.
Yeah, that will make those who are not within the organizations have a challenge when seeing your screen.
So I just share. Okay.
You can share like your entire screen. That will be okay because they'll now see your screen. But when you share on your organization, then it becomes a challenge for those who are not part of the organization.
Okay. Let me switch. Can you see the entire screen now? Is it visible? Kimboy?
Yeah. So let's John Mukwam, you said it was not visible. Can you confirm it now that it's okay? He's typing. Let's just get the confirmation. Yeah, it's now
It's
visible to him.
visible. Okay, let's continue. Okay. Presentation. Okay, we were here. So data centers, we were talking about data centers, and we said they're facilities with resources. And these data centers are grouped into regions and availability zones. So a region has several availability zones, and it's a geographical area that contains at least one, but potentially multiple data centers that are networked together. So availability zones they are like separate data centers within a region. Maybe you can have East US or West US or something like that. So we have a region with different zones, and then that zone has different it hosts different uh different what different why am I forgetting the word, like multiple data centers that are grouped together, they make a region, an Azure region. So uh we can have region pairs. Mostly region pairs are used to make sure in case one pair fails, one region fails, the other one will act as a backup. So in case there are interruptions like natural disasters, we have power outages or something that affects that specific region, there's a backup to ensure that your application or your business does not face any challenges. So what are resources? Anything that you create or provision or deploy is a resource. We'll see that later in Azure. We can have virtual machines, databases, cognitive services. I'll show you that in a minute. So anything you create is a resource, and each resource is under a resource group. So what's a resource group? A resource group is a group of resources. So when you're creating a resource, you're required to place it in a resource group. And a resource group can have many resources, but a single resource can only be in one resource group. So let's say you're creating a full stack web application and you have a database, you have a front end, and you have a back end. So all these are related, and you will put them maybe in a resource group called maybe CSK website, or like you name a resource group and then you group all these single resources together. So a resource is anything you create. It can be maybe an machine learning studio, all those things that you create, their resources, but they have to be under a resource group. An example can be a web app and a database. So remember we said your subscription has resource groups, and these resource groups contain certain resources. It can have maybe one resource or multiple resources, however you want it to work. So what is Azure Resource Manager? So we've said you need to create resources, and then these resources are under a resource group. So your Azure Resource Manager, when you're trying to create maybe a web application, a static a web app, and then maybe a database, whatever you're trying to create, you need to be authenticated first for you to create that resource. So Azure Resource Manager handles all that, and you can create a resource in the Azure portal. You can use the command line, you can use the PowerShell, and you can use a client. So before you are authorized to create that resource, Azure Resource Manager checks if you have the right to do that, and then it allows you to create, update, or delete something in the account that you're working in. If you have a question, or if I've confused you in any way, you can just type it in the chat. So it authenticates and authorizes the request before forwarding it to the appropriate Azure service. So it's like a gatekeeper that allows you to perform certain I don't want to say CRUD functionalities, but it's something like that: create, update, delete resources. Yeah. So Azure has several services, but the main services are storage. We have compute, networking, databases, and we're going to see all that. In compute, we have virtual machines. So you have your virtual machines. You can have container instances, Kubernetes, and let me just let me show you this.
A month. I'm happy to read in the comments and DMs that many of you guys are getting results. Number 2, ginger, turmeric, cayenne.
Okay, sorry for that. I hope you can see my screen. So this is Microsoft Azure. Let me see if I can change it to light mode. So that you can see clearly. I'll give it a minute. But as you can see, there's a way. Let me zoom in. when you click the hamburger menu hapo, you can create a resource, you can navigate to home. This is home, and then you can, if you're looking for a certain service, you can come to maybe databases, Azure, Cosmos DB, virtual machines. So when you go to all services, they are categorized. Like you can see for AI and machine learning, there's 22 of them. We have Azure AI Studio, Azure Machine Learning, AI Search, Computer Vision. All those are the AI and machine learning services. And then we have the analytics. We have Data Lake. We have Azure Databricks is supposed to be somewhere over here. Yeah, we have Power BI, and then after that we have compute. This is what I was looking for. Let me minimize this. We have compute over here. So you can see you have container instances as well. You have databases. You have DevOps, GitHub. You also have GitHub here. API project. So all these are Azure resources, and you can use whichever one you want. I'm going to go back to this presentation. So we had compute. In networking, we have content delivery network, virtual network manager, and then we have VPN gateways. You can also see that on Azure. I have so many tabs open. Networking. And oh, here it is. You have network managers, you have virtual gateways, you have firewalls. You can deploy all these services for your maybe projects or businesses. You have firewall manager, you have mobile networks, virtual, wide area networks, you have security. So there are a lot of things that you can use in Azure for web and mobile. You have static web apps for the developers, you have app service domains, you have AI search. So maybe if you are working on a project, you can have this static web app, you can have your database, and then you can have your app service. So you will group all those to be a resource group. Maybe I can show you an example of a resource group. So these are the resources that I have in my Azure account. This is a Azure Machine Learning Workspace, but this is a resource group. So if you come here for the resource group that is called Machine Learning Models, it has all these models. So you see I've grouped all these resources under one resource group. If we come back here and there should be a full stack, a full stack resource group. Is loading. So we have like for this is an app service. This is a static web app. So this is a backend. This is a front end. These are application insights. We have another static web app service plan. So all these are under one resource group. So I hope you've understood what is a resource and a resource group. If you want to create a resource, you just come here. So we are going to create a new resource. And then you're brought to the marketplace. So if I want to create a virtual machine, I click virtual machines. If I want to create a web app, I create a web app from here, SQL database. You can have an automation. The databases are also here. So let's go to, let's create the next thing on the slides was databases. So let's create an SQL database. So I'll go to SQL databases. It's loading. You see, if I want to create a database, I can create an SQL, Azure SQL, Cosmos, all those databases. So let's come create a database. I hope my screen is still visible, Kemboy. Somebody react if my screen is okay. Okay, so we talked about subscription. Your account is under a subscription. Where is that slide? No. Yeah, your Azure account is under a subscription, and that subscription has several resource groups under it. So if you go back, my account, this is my account, Tiffany. It's a student ambassador's account. But if you look at this, I'm under the Visual Studio Enterprise subscription. So that is what I was referring to when I said you are under a certain subscription. And the next thing is create a resource group. So if I'm creating a database, but I already have a resource group called databases. So if I want to create a new resource group, I just click here and then we can name it a database demos. Click OK. A new resource group is created. So next time if I want to do a demo, I can just pick that as my resource group. So a database name, let's call it the same name, database. Database demo. Select server. So for my SQL server, you have to either select a server that was there or create a new one. So let's just create a new server. So the server name, we can just call it the same thing, database demo. When you're deploying we're trying to deploy a database, and then we're creating a SQL database server for this SQL database. So the location that you're going to deploy this server should be the same as the one you're going to deploy the database. So you can change the name is in use. Let's try something else. Tiffany's DB. That's good. So my subscription, I'll choose Africa, South Africa, because it's nearest. Let's see if it allows that. Yes, so it's working. And then you select an authentication method. So I won't use Microsoft Entra. I'll use SQL authentication. So password. So my resource is my server is okay. I think I've filled everything. So our server is this one, Tiffany's DB South Africa North. So do you want to use an SQL Elastic pool? So if I'm using this SQL server with another database, do I want them to share resources? No. So that remains as no. Our workload environment. For production, it's more expensive. And since we're not pushing an app to production, we just switch it to development. I want you to notice the difference. If I put it production, the the compute and storage goes to standard series, which is much more expensive. Because if you look at this, the estimated cost for production is that $357. But if I put it to development environment, it changes to 6.41 USD, not USD dollars, USD per month. So we put it to development. This remains as general purpose, but you can change your database configuration. So this involves the storage that you want your database to take up. If you want it to consume more space and to have more compute, you can add on that. It's taking time to load. So you see here, you can change your service tier. I selected a general purpose one, but if I change the hyperscale, it becomes more expensive. If I change the business, it becomes more expensive because it's using more resources. You see, you have 625 GB of memory. So that is what happens. We go back to our $6. Yes, let's go back to our $6. I guess that's it. So we come back to here. Backup storage redundancy. So if you want it to be local, zone, or geo, based on what you want, you can change. So I'll just leave the settings to default, and then you go back. We go to networking, connectivity, public endpoint to allow someone else to access. Firewall, yes, and yes. So this will allow you to connect the database if you're working with the if you're connecting your backend with this database that you're going to deploy. It will allow the firewall, it allow server requests. So let's, I don't know why. Let's review and create the database. Always make sure you've checked your estimated cost, because your Azure credits can be really high, expensive. So let's create our database. So we covered that as the database is creating, it's being deployed. It's a meeting deployment. But I hope you've seen how you work with resources, resource groups, and you can now you can deploy your database on Azure. We'll have more detailed sessions on that. So I just wanted to do an overview so that you can understand a service, a resource, and a resource group and how they work. So Kembo is going to do a demonstration on blob storage. So Kembo, back to you. Since our resource is still deploying, I'll come back to that later.
Okay, so thank you so much, Tiffany. That was an awesome presentation. So let me send it back to Teams. And when you see my screen, I can show some reactions or somebody confirm. Tiff, can you be able to see my screen?
No.
Okay, oh, sorry. I think let me share. So I'm sharing this. So how about now?
It's, yeah, now I can see storage, data lake
Yeah, exactly.
storage.
Nice. So we'll be talking about Azure Blob storages, but before that, let's speak about what is storage. And when you talk about storage is on Azure, we're talking about where you can be able to store your data, whether it's object data, files, these which are available in disks. queues, all of them, they can be stored on Azure portal. And all of these, they must be stored in terms of resources. So because Stephen has showed you that everything that you deploy is known as a resource, but always under a resource group. We have the data lake. So this allows you to have different data sources. So let's say you're having data from JSON format, you're having data from NoSQL format. So data lake will be a good resource for you to use. But if you want to store things as if they're stored in your computer, you can always use the files. But there's this unique one that I like the most. It's known as the Azure Blob Storage. Azure Blob Storage allows you to store object storage data. And you can imagine like you're developing a website. So, but you want to store your images somewhere so that you can be able to use those images while you so that those images can be displayed, but you cannot store images in a database. So for a very good software engineer, they will always tell you that storing images in a database, it might be possible, but that's not a good thing to do. So you have to look for other services. So Azure has that for you. So let's get into a demo on blob storage. Let's see how you're going to create that resource, and at the end of it all, I'm very sure that you will have gotten an idea of how to work with it. Yeah, so let's practice. So I'm going to share my Azure portal. Okay, and before I share that, there's a blog that was written by Kevin, and it was the same one that I was using to just grab some few ideas about it. So I'm going to share this on the chat so that whenever you will have more questions, how you can connect this to your code, because this was implemented connecting it using the JavaScript SDK. You can be able to follow up and see how you went up to it. So this is a gallery. So if let's take an instance that you want to have your own gallery, and when you upload that image, you want it to be stored in the cloud. So if you would wish that to be done, this a new way you can do it. So you can upload it using the Azure Blob Storage, and this is a project that was done only with React. You don't need a backend for this. So once you are in the application, you get all the images and they're stored for you. So let me share that on the chat. The chat. Yeah, that's the blog itself. So for me, I'll be going direct to Azure portal. So let me go back home. Hoping my screen is still okay. So I'm going to talk about Azure Blob Storage. So it's under the storage accounts. But if you don't get this because it might be your first time using it, then you just go on to this tab on the other side, look for all the services, and then you're going to find it over here under the storage services. But if that also becomes a challenge, because yeah, okay, so let's find that. So this is always the slowest. You have like to know where things are located. Even I can't even find it. So the other way you can do it is just search over here. So you're looking for the storage. So you can also search. So the storage accounts is over here. So once you do that, next time when you will be coming back, you will find it over there. So I also have to create that resource. So everything in Azure that you do, you're creating a resource of it. So I'm going to click on create. Let's give it some time. So yeah. Yep. So, and this is the subscription that you have to have. You have to have that subscription so that you can be able to create resources. Second thing is create the resource group. So I'm going to name mine. What do I name it? So let me call it data KE storage or blob. I think blob will be a good name. Then okay. So I've created that resource group. Next thing is the name. So I'm going to say Azure the data KE, then give the name as yeah. blob storage. I always find it hard getting some names, but I think that's cool. So also you're talking about the regions. When you talk about regions, you're talking about where your resource will be deployed to. So Tiffany mentioned that you select one that is close to you. So let me see one that's close to me. So in this case, I always know that South Africa is close to Africa. And it's cool that Kenya will be having its own data center soon. Here it is, Africa South, South Africa North. Yeah. Then the primary service that I'm looking for is Azure Blob Storage. Okay. So I would wish to go with standard. I think it's even recommended. And then the redundancy. So this was what I was telling you when we began the session. You will have to choose whether this application will be geo-redundant. That means will be deployed in different data centers. But if you give it locally, it means to be stored only in one zone. And in a region, we have 4 zones. So you can say this could be only in one zone. And the zonal storage will only also remain in one specific data or specific region. But redundant means that you can even have it in different regions. You can have it also in 3 more regions. But in this case, I want to have it locally because I'm not on production, I'm on development. I'm still trying out if things are actually working in this case. The second thing, let's go to advanced option here at the top. Yeah, let me check if everything is okay. Yeah, if you want to have some connections with the REST APIs, be sure to check these out. Then allow anonymous access of individual containers. So we'll be talking about what are containers. And also in that blog, it has explained what are containers. And then, yeah, I think everything is okay. Most of the things that you always find on the portal, they are by default okay. So let's talk about these access tiers. So on a blob storage, you can either have hot tiers, cool tiers, or cold tiers. When we talk about the hot tier, it means these files are going to be accessed most frequently. And in this case, it's like a website that an e-commerce website whereby you have to showcase all the things in that store. So most probably you have to choose the hot tier whereby all the images will be fetched each and every time and updated. The cool tier is always not that much accessed. Let's say in a week you can have it accessed probably 10 times, not that much, not like hot tier. Hot tier is for a busy application, but the cold tier is that you can have an application whereby it can be accessed maybe once in a week, once in a month, or twice. So this is a cool place for you. So Hotstar is always expensive because you are accessing somebody's computer. That's cloud computing. And if you have frequent users getting in there, getting images, updating it, and doing all that stuff, you know you're using somebody's compute power. So that's why you have to pay more for hot tier compared to cold tier. So we're going to go to hot tier, whereby you will be able to get these images anytime you want. Let's see your networking. When networking, you're now provisioning that you want this to be on public access to all networks, that it can be accessed with any network that you want. However, it's somehow maybe risky, but Azure will also give you like you can be able to disable that, and so maybe you want this to be private. Let's say you want to have some of the items that you want to show there to be private and don't want others to access them. You can restrict them over here. But if you have an endpoint whereby you want this to point to, you can always add it over here. Yep. So I'll leave it this as a default as public access. Let's see on data protection. So data protection talks about how this data when maybe you delete this data, what should happen? So there's something known as the soft delete. You've seen often on your computers or phones, whereby when you delete something, it always goes to the trash, and you can always recover that item. So whenever I delete, let's say an image that I'm going to store, and I never meant to delete it, then I can be able to go and recover that image back. So that's the cool thing about Azure Blob Storage. So it also has this for you that you can be able to have a soft delete on containers, on files, on those blobs. Let's talk on something on encryption. For this, I'm going to go with Microsoft keys. I don't have my own customer managed keys. And yeah, I think this is all ready. There are tags, they're always there for you to just know which resource was that. Let me review and create. So the review will tell me if all the things that I've set is good for it to be deployed. Let's see. Okay, yeah, validation was okay. You can see all of what we've set, and I can just create. So let's wait it to be deployed. Yeah, and as we wait for that, if you have any question about it, so okay, we shall be talking about what are containers after the resource is deployed and what's a blob. And those are the details that they might be new to you. So operations has been accepted. So let's be a little bit patient. So it's okay. So right. So let's go to the resource and see what comes in next. Alright, so it takes you to this overview, which it's still loading. This is because of our internet, and accessing such portals requires you to have a very good internet. But let's be just patient. So we'll be getting down to this other panel, where this other side, right side. So you can see on this tab known as data storage, we have containers, files, queues, and tables. So we will start by looking what is containers, but I'm waiting for this page to first load, and then you can see the overview page of it. So let's just give it a minute. So it's taking forever. It's okay. You can just go to containers, and then whatever shall be on the overview page, I'll be able to show you. Let me just go for containers because, yeah, it's over here. So a container, I won't say it's another resource group, but it's now whatever is going to group your files, your images, those items you want to store them. So this is your actual store. Like it's like a bag. You always have a bag so that you can enter some items inside it. So this is it. So that's a container. So click on this plus button, and over to the right, it's going to tell you that you can create it. So I'll name this as data AE container over here. So here's another anonymous access label whereby you can be able to specify. But in this case, I want it also to be public because whatever thing I want to share here, I want you also to be able to access it. So let's say I give you this bag or this container as a whole, so that you can be able to access everything inside it. So we make it anonymous, but sometimes it has some risk. You see, it's also giving me some notification that, yeah, sometimes it can be risky to have everything, especially the items you want to share is confidential. So let me create it. So it's creating the story and the container successfully created. So let me get into the container. Yeah, and we are in. So we can now be able to upload whatever thing we have. So I'll be doing this on Azure portal, but in the blog that I shared, is going to explain to you also how you can be able to connect this to your code so that somebody can be able to upload it from their site. Let's upload. I'm going to upload some images. Let me select them over here. Let me select some few images. So I'll select 3 images at most. Okay, can't find that one. Let me go with this one. So I've selected 3 images and then I'm now uploading it. 3 images, okay, then upload. Just wait for an upload to happen. Yeah, all the images have been uploaded. So imagine now you have, so this is like how images will be uploaded whenever somebody uploads, say, a profile picture on an e-commerce website. You have some items uploaded. So this, they will always get into a container. A container is like a folder. So if you can, let's say, access this first image, you can be able to see what the metadata of that image. And then if I copy this and maybe paste on my browser, let's see if you can be able to access that image. Yeah, and you can see this image is available and it is HTTPS. So if I'm to copy this image and then share it also to the chat so that you can be able to see it, it's accessible to everybody, not that person who was only given access. That's why it was anonymous. So let me share it through the chat right here. Yeah, just click on it, it will take you to the exact image. And this image is now on our container, HTTPS data block storage. That is it. So we've been able to cover that, and all these other images, the same thing happens. So for a code, you'll always have to look through it so that you can be able to see all the images. Right. Let me go back to the overview. Okay, the overview, okay, it's here. I think it has accepted to open it. So it gives you all the details about it, where you deployed it, and then what other thing can you see? You can be able to monitor all the services. This was what I was saying, that Azure gives you like the monitoring. You can see the activities that has happened on a graph and be able to monitor it. You can also look on the SDKs. Let's say you want to connect it with the .NET library. So you can view the documentation of how that happens on Python, JavaScript, Java. And yeah, I think I've covered most of the things that we want to touch on this. So let me see something on the slide that what you're supposed to do next.
Can wait 1 moment.
Okay.
I talked about compute. Let me share my screen.
Right.
So I talked about compute, and I said we can have virtual machines. Virtual machines, like these are scalable computing resources that provide virtualization. So you can have it's like operating as somebody's machine, but virtually. So that's what a virtual machine is. I hope that explanation makes sense. We also have Kubernetes. They simplify deployment, management, and operations of clusters like Kubernetes. And then for the container instances, I want to show you something. These container instances, they allow you to run Docker containers in these serverless environments, and you don't need to set up complex systems to do all that. So if I'm having if I'm having a model, like let's say I want to train a machine learning model and I don't have the resources to do that on my computer. I don't have the CPU or the GPU to run those models. So I can create a compute instance. As you can see here, there's an option to create a compute instance. So the first thing you will do is you'll create an Azure machine learning workspace, the same way we created the other resource. And then when you launch the studio, it now takes you to this page. Yeah, this page. There's something blocking the tabs up there, so sorry for that. So you can create a compute instance, you can create compute clusters, you can create Kubernetes clusters, You can create serverless instances. You can do all this. So this is what I meant by being able to provision and manage these applications without having physical hardware. So if I want to run, maybe I can upload a notebook. Uh-huh. Mm. No, no, no. Sorry for that. Documents. Um, so you see, I don't have a compute instance. I can just use this, or I can add a new instance. So this is where I select the virtual machine type, a CPU or a GPU, and then the size. I can do the standard. You see, each one has a different cost. So I can select, let me try to remove this. Okay, yeah. So I can select this one. Compute name, we can call it demo. Exist demo or it. Yeah, so I can create that and I'll be able to now run this this model on that notebook. So I'll just add a compute here, and then I'll be able to run this Jupyter notebook in Azure. So that's how awesome the this compute and the Kubernetes and all that can help you access virtual machines in cloud. So that's what I wanted to show you. Camboy?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for making even more clarification on a demo on what we mean by the compute services offered by Azure. So I'm going also to share my screen once again. And let me know when my screen is visible.
It's okay. You can see your screen.
Yeah. Let me just enter into presentation mode. Yeah, so let's talk more about the service types. So I'm quite sure that this was what was covered last week. So Kevin was able to explain to you in detail, like how you can be able to break it down to different services. Like for instance, he talked about the infrastructure as a service, and it always provides the computing resources over the internet. And this now what Tiffany has showed you. Like if for instance you want to have a better laptop, in this case, and you have these subscriptions, you can always get a virtual machine in this case. Other things that are available for you is like a virtual network, the Azure load balancers. So you always hear about load balancers on maybe on theories or whatever you always read, and they are always infrastructure service because you get the compute itself that you need. So for instance, you want a disk, it's the hard drive disks, but you don't want to have them physically. You can just get to Azure and then provision some for yourself. SSDs are always available for you. Even the storage accounts, you see, you'll be able to demo this, and it's also an infrastructure as a service. So if we talk about PaaS, it provides the platform whereby you can be able to develop and run and manage some applications without even dealing with more infrastructure in this case. When we were creating a blob storage, you see, we had to set up everything like the containers itself, because the container is now mine. So that is an infrastructure as a service. But now if I want to just use a platform that is already made, like for instance, the SQL database, and Tiffany has been able to showcase how you can provision a database now on Azure portal. So you have access to Azure App Services, whereby you can deploy your APIs over to Azure, MariaDB. There are several of them. So it's always about the use case that you want to have on that. Another part you can talk about is the software as a service. So this is even more low level. So these like are delivering like software applications over the internet. That's over the Azure portal. So moving than the examples given, you can talk about the Microsoft 365, whereby even you can use Word itself. I know Word is not available on Azure portal, but whatever is available on the portal is now the Azure DevOps, the advisors, migrate, like now these are just the services now that are offered, but you don't have to manage the infrastructure itself. But when you're using the PaaS, the platform as a service, you have now also to manage some other subscriptions. You have to manage several things over here. Yep. Let's get into, let's see also some other parts that you get access to on the portal. You have the access to the big data and analytics, and this is helpful to you, especially when you're a data analyst. So sometimes these are the resources that you want to get some other different compute power for yourself, and that was available for you on the Azure portal. Like for instance, the Azure Data Lake. So it is very scalable database for analytics. So it allows you to have, let's say, petabytes of data, like large amount than the one that you can be able to buy, so that you can be able to store your data itself. So for data analysts who usually deal with large amounts of data, this is always a service available for you. Even the Synapses also does the same thing, but now with more analytics into it. It always shows you how you can be able to scale up your Synapse itself after you've deployed it. Even the stream analytics. When you talk about the stream analytics, you're talking about real-time service, whereby if you're managing a service whereby users should be able to see things, especially with time. Let's say those graphs usually you do with marketing, and you want to be able to stream them because they are real-time data. You always use the stream analytics. So these are powerful tools that are there for you. The HD Insights gives you more insights on how best you can be able to manage those. Yep. We shall be walking you through the last part of demos. So I will begin with the Azure Cognitive Services, so that you can be able to also see other parts of the AI part, how you can be able to have AI help you with your resources and help you make things even more smarter. So Azure Cognitive Services. So these are just collection of APIs and SDKs that are available on the portal itself, so that you can be able to create intelligent services. So in this case, yeah, you have services like those for vision that you can have the custom vision, the face API, the video indexer. These are just also services that you can be able to provision. But now this always analyzes the images and video, so that they can be able to extract some information from them. We have other services like the speech, whereby you want to convert some sounds from text to speech, speech recognitions, speaker recognition. They're always available for you. You have the ones for languages. If you want a translator, in this case, the Q&A maker. Also available the decision ones, the ones that you can use to search your applications using the indexes. So today we shall look into one that is a translator. So let me walk you through the portal so that you can be able to see that. So let me go back to Azure portal. So I'm going to, let me go back home. So let me look for Azure AI services. So you always get it there. So if you don't find it here, just search for Azure AI services, and then you'll be able to get it. Let me wait it to load. Yeah, anybody with a question, you can, in the meantime, you can be able to showcase to us. Okay. You can always, you can share with us in the chat so that we can have time for it to showcase it. All right. So in this case, I want a translator. So this is an AI search. Let me look for that. Okay, let me search if I don't find it. Okay, let me just create the OpenAI account and then inside it, and then I'll be able to, okay, it's here, it's over here. Let me just create it instantly. So I wanted to go a long route to find it because I wasn't seeing it. So let me just go direct to the translator. So translator will be able to translate different languages that you want. So for you to create a translator, you have to give also the information. So everything that's pay as you go. So have a subscription for that. So instead of creating a resource group, I'm going to just have it within the resource group that I created, because later on I might delete everything because I'm not using this for production. I'm just using this for learning in this case. So I have to choose a region. I'll choose South Africa North. It's close to me. Let me give a name. So let me call this data DE translator. So the name always unique. You cannot have this name once I've used it, not unless I delete it. So the pricing tier. So all these pricing tiers that you can choose a free tier, but you only get 2 million characters translated per month. But if you're having a business, you can go even to going for the others who are custom, whereby you can get up to 2.5 billion characters. So let me just go with the free one. Let me see on the networks if there's something I have to change. So I want to allow all networks into it. Let me see on identity. Okay, the status is off. So I think there's not much to change, just create it. Then let's wait for that. Yeah, Tiffany, you shared if you don't have an Azure for Students credit, you can use that link to create to claim your credit as a student. You always get 100 US dollars that case. So don't let your credits go because you've never claimed them. It's available for you. So as we wait for this deployment, just take less than a minute for it to deploy. Deployment successful. Let me go to the resource. Okay. All right, so once I'm in, the first thing you see is the overview of whatever I have. So whatever I've set is already over here. So I'm going to also use the Azure portal also for today, because we are showing you the services that are available. But whenever now we step down to speaking the specific service, you'll now be able to see also on code how you can be able to connect with these keys and endpoints. So if you want to translate something from one language to the other, so in this case, I can say I want to translate something, say, I'm on tech, and this is, and that's the spelling. So this is being translated to Spanish, and you see it's slow. So I could have chosen something that is much fast. Yeah, something saying so entusiasta di tecnologia. But let me just go for Swahili because most of us understand Swahili. Let me look for Swahili in this list. Inyandaro. So we have okay, Kirwanda. So we go for Swahili. So I want to translate this to Swahili. Say mimi ni mtaalamu wa teknolojia. So which other language, if you know any other language that you can be able to showcase it with, you can say, because I just went with Swahili because most of us understand Swahili. Or a language that you want us to try, like Igbo. Igbo is from Nigeria. Let's see how that can be pronounced. Yeah, very hard for me to pronounce it. So let's also look into, if you want to have this on code, how can you achieve that? So if you want to use this on code, you always have the keys. So as a developer, you now are able to be able to use the keys and endpoints whenever you're given. So it's like, you have a translator. You don't have to build a translator from scratch. You can just go in here, take any key you want. So we have two keys. These two keys is for your security purpose. Let's say somebody else has maybe access to the first key, you can use the second key. And always, you can always regenerate new keys. You can see at the top, you can regenerate keys whenever they're exposed. Yeah, even this region will be used when you are coding it. Then you see all these endpoints are available. Say that on your code, whether using any language, these should be included. The pricing tiers. So this is one cool thing about Azure. So it gives you a table of, like, now we chose the free tier. It tells us what we get and what we don't get. And as you go, so if I'm not to select another one, see, I can select the S1 tier, but now I'm getting some additional stuff. So these others which are very expensive, like this one, you get almost everything. Then you can just apply changes. But I'm going to discard that at the moment. Yeah, most of the things are covered. So if in case you want to look into working on other services, just go to the AI services that I showed you. So let's say you want to create an AI search, but in this case, you cannot be able to showcase something on the portal because you just get the keys, and then you can be able now to connect to your application that you can be able to search through it. Yep. So that was a demo on that. Tiffany, do you still have something to say about Azure Machine Learning? Because these were our two demos for this part.
I can present something. So I had talked about Azure Machine Learning. So I'm going to show you how to deploy it. But then it's the same thing. Let me just have like a quick overview. You come here. I hope my screen is visible. Let me zoom in a little bit. It's not changing in either way. So when you are creating an Azure machine learning service, the first thing you do is create the service and then you launch the studio. So if, like, for here I had created a resource for, I called it train your model. So maybe you can create a new workspace. So resource group, we can continue using the machine learning models resource group. Our name, let's call it how to train your Model. Oh, my letters are confused. How to train your model. So deployment region, Africa, South Africa, North. So storage account it creates, and then it creates a vault and application inside. So all this will be under this resource group, the machine learning models resource group. So you can come to the networking tab if you want this workspace to be public. You make it public, so it means you can access an endpoint here. So let's say I'm trying to connect a web application with a machine learning model that I will deploy under this workspace. So if I made this public, I'll be able to get the endpoint and connect the two. If I make it private, you can only access under if the like you can only access with a private endpoint. So this makes it private, this makes it public. And then when it's private, it means you have to be for you to run this or to access this, you have to be authorized. So encryption, most of these tabs, you just leave them as they were originally. So these tags, I forgot to mention tags. So tags, it's like a way to categorize resources by applying the same tags to multiple resources or resource groups. So the way I can have a tag for maybe all web application, I can call them webs, or all Python applications, I can call them Python group. Like it's a tag to identify resources and resource groups. So I hope that makes sense, because most people confuse tags and resource groups. So we've done that. You can review and create. It's validating. Let's give it a minute. So validation passed. When you create the workspace, it's going to be deployed, and then you're going to have something like this. Deployment is still in progress. You'll have something like this. So this is your workspace, and you have to launch your studio. So you launch your studio, it opens another tab. Now the Azure Machine Learning Studio. But let's see if this one deployed. It's still in progress. So it's still the same thing. I can't see my tabs. This is the one I had already deployed. So let's go to this studio. So this is what if I launch this deployed this service, it's deployed. If I launch the studio, it's giving me this. What is this? It's still loading here, but it's coming up. I can go to home. So in home, you have all the resources that you need. You can deploy models here, like ChatGPT-4. All those models, you can deploy them here, like Kemboy had, like we had seen in Azure AI Studio. It's still loading. I don't know what's up with the network, but when you come here and you upload your Jupyter notebooks, you can run your codes here, and then you can train your models here. So you will use the compute instances that you are talking about. We created a compute instance, if you can remember. If you come to compute, you see we have an instance running. So when I want to run this notebook, it's going to use that compute instance, and it's going to train my model. So if anyone has a question, you can ask. Or if you are lost, but we're going to have a whole series next Tuesday on, not a whole series, a whole event on Azure AI Machine Learning Studio, because just doing an overview of things doesn't give someone like an in-depth understanding. So we're going to do that next week, Tuesday. But I hope you understood compute, because that is what we wanted to show you under the AI services. So anyone with a question?
Yeah, if you have a question, you can share with us on the chat. I've shared also a link for you to fill in the form. Once you fill that form, you'll get an invitation to join our WhatsApp group. So today I sent an email to those who registered last week, and I also shared, when you just read on the email there, you'll find that there's a link to join the WhatsApp group. That's why you always get notified of all these communications. Yeah. We have 1 minute more before the meeting ends. So anyone with any clarifications to be made, you're welcome to ask that.
If you can see my screen, these are the models you can deploy on Azure Machine Learning Studio. So you're using resources from Azure to build your solutions. We have ChatGPT, help by let's see if you can see, not the notebooks. So if I want to deploy my own ChatGPT 4, I can just come here, deploy my version, take the endpoint, connect it somewhere. If I want to train the model or customize the model, I can also do that. All the models, most of the models are here. So if you are a student, you can claim your Azure credits, and then you can try out this using these models, or deploying resources on Azure, not just the models. Yeah, you can deploy other resources on Azure virtual machines. You can also try to work with the web applications and all that. My net is so slow, but we'll see that next Tuesday. We have a session on that. Yeah, these are the models: GPT-4, GPT 4.0 mini. They're all here. So whatever model you want, you just deploy it. You can customize your model. So yeah, that's how awesome Azure Machine Learning Studio is, and also Azure AI Studio. Going back to you.
Yeah, so I don't have something else to add. So it's thank you everybody for joining us. I will always have these sessions each and every Saturday, the same time, 7 p.m. is to 8:30. So see you next week as we also get in to learn something. So thank you so much, Marianne, saying thank you for the session. It was very helpful. Anna from Victor, thank you for the session. Yeah, you're very welcome. We are doing this for the community. For anyone who misses the meeting, you can also have the recordings later on. So we always have a channel on YouTube whereby after the sessions we have upload them there. So for anybody who misses a session, you always get it over there. So thank you, and see you next week. Bye bye.